I'm Igor Kayfetz, and this is The List Building Lifestyle, the podcast for anyone who wants to build a wildly profitable email list working from home. If you'd like to make six figures, travel the world, and help people improve their lives in the process, this podcast is for you. I also invite you to claim a free copy of my best-selling book, The List Building Lifestyle, Confessions of an Email Millionaire, at igorsbook.com. Get the free book plus $3,000 bonus package that includes my best capture page templates, email swipe files, and traffic blueprints. Visit www.igorsbook.com for details. And now, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Welcome back to the List Building Lifestyle. I'm your host, Igor Kayfetz. And in this episode, you're going to find out how to make $100,000 a year selling solo ads to a tiny list. Now, my guest today is Marc Mawhinney, who actually figured out a way to monetize his 4,000 person list using a very cool solo ad model, which I am dying for you to discover. And before we give it to you, before we break it down for you, of course, I would like for Marc to share how he made it happen, how he came up with the idea, because I've seen models like this before, but not too many. And anytime I meet someone who actually has the brains and ingenuity and had the balls, to be honest, to actually go and, tell people, well, if you want to mail my list, then you should give me some money. Well, that's a great guest in my book. So, Marc, welcome to the List Building Lifestyle.
Hey, Igor. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure. And, the first time we spoke, I was really like scratching my head and be like, wow, this guy's onto something. Because anytime you meet with someone with a list, the first thing I discover, of course, they don't mail the list. And that's been one of the most common things I've ever seen. And it's like, do you have a list? Yes. How big is it? 7,000 people. Oh, awesome. How often do you mail it? I haven't mailed it for 6 months. What? You're sitting on a gold mine and you're not mailing? So that's why I'm excited to host you, because not only you're mailing your list, but you also figured out a great way to create stable, predictable income from it. So first off, let's break it down. What exactly is the model? So I know you got a podcast, you've got a following, you got a Facebook group, you've got some presence in the coaching space, and people know you as the guy who hosts the Natural Born Coaches podcast. But then again, you monetize your list by what we would call selling solo ads, right? So why don't you walk us through it?
Well, I'll be using the word JV. I know, I think you in our conversation, you and I chatted about it where, it's not, typical JV or whatever, but for convenience, I'll say joint venture. But the emails are part of it, but really what happens is whenever I work with someone, I call it a flat fee JV model, where for 1 week I will promote whatever we decide we're promoting. Usually it's a live webinar for the partner, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's something else. And they're involved in everything in my ecosystem, so I'm emailing my list every morning about them, blog post, everywhere on social media. But the Facebook group's a big part of it, the Coaching Jungle. There's almost 24,000 coaches in there, so it's a good sized community. Podcast, as we mentioned. So really, it's everything that I do. I'm focusing on them for that week, and I only work with one partner at a time, just so we don't muddy the waters. And then I charge a flat fee for it. Partner keeps 100% of sales with it. The email list, I should mention, is a self-purging list because I email it daily. I've been emailing daily since April 2016, so it chases away anyone who's like, oh my God, I don't want to hear from this guy every day with it. So probably could be bigger if I mailed it sparsely occasionally, but it's a daily email.
Well, I assure you that wouldn't be. That's actually not true. MailChimp did a study. And they discovered that the lowest unsubscribe rates are the ones on lists that get emailed once a day. And the highest unsubscribe rates are on the list that get emailed once a month. So, whether or not you would have a bigger list, that's one, I guess discussion we can have. But a whole other discussion is which would make you more money.
Yep.
And I think what you're doing is right. Mailing them every day is absolutely correct and it's became even more important, I think, during the pandemic or since the start of the pandemic.
Yes.
Because the email volume, not sure if you noticed, I've noticed, the email volume went up. Like people email hard these days. And so if you want to get in front of people, you better be there every single day.
It's noisy out there for sure. It's noisy everywhere, but I'm a big fan of daily emails. I wouldn't have been doing it. And I know you are too, because I'm on your email list. So I get your emails every day. And I wouldn't have done, I forget what it is, 2,300 plus straight days, something like that, if I wasn't a believer in daily emails and then this model that we're talking about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the model's great. The model is absolutely fantastic. You know, it actually reminded me back in the day when I just got into selling solo ads. I was still in the Warrior Forum before they got bought out by Freelancer, because I think as soon as that happened, they kind of screwed up the community. Really, it became something else. I'm almost like one of these geezers, you know, who complains about a rock band changing their music style and be like, oh, it's not the same. You know, I'm one of these. So in the Warrior Forum back in the day, I remember publishing this solo ad offer where I would mail you to my list, and I would guarantee you 100 clicks. At the time, that's all I could pull from a list, 100 clicks. That's really was it. Then I would also post on my Twitter and post to my Facebook. And I would basically make it into this whole package. And what I was surprised, because I would offer, you know, different options, kind of like a menu, you know, just social media or just email, and then social media and email. And almost everyone would go for the package that included all three. So when I saw what you're doing, and you know, if you want, we can break down the package, as I'm sure there's lots of coaches listening who might be interested in buying it. But the way you're doing it is very, very smart, because you're stacking up that value, man.
Yeah, I'm part of it's convenience, keeping it simple. I don't like to have 10 different offerings or whatever, so it's kind of that one choice. Well, I guess two. I have a week-long option. I also have a 3-day option, which is about half the price, just condensed into 3 days with it. So I do add some other bonuses. I give them some digital products that I have and things like that. But I also look at it more long-term. So anytime someone in my Facebook group, for example, asks a question, they're looking for someone who's an expert or could help them on X, the first thing goes in my mind is which of my JV partners are a book writing coach, you know, and I've done JVs with those before. So I'll tag them. And the other day, someone needed help with a challenge right away. I'm like, who do I know that's a challenge expert? I tagged him and brought him into it. So besides their podcast episode being live forever, right? It could be 6 months, a year later, people hear it. Also, I look at it that they're going to get some spin-off business, could be 3 months, 6 months down the road or whatever. And that's why a lot of my partners, we do encore. I say encores, we do maybe 4 months down the road or 6 months down the road, we do it again when some time has passed and it's fresh again. And those are great because I've already vetted the partner. I know that they're great. The big 3 criteria I have, just if anyone's ever interested in setting it up for themselves, it has to be something that's relevant for my community, obviously, and my community's coaches. It has to be something that's good because my name's attached to it. So I got to make sure that it's legit and it does what it says. And then finally, you and I have had this chat before. I try to keep ones that aren't. If I just did one 2 weeks ago with someone who does YouTube ads, probably wouldn't do one this quick with someone else that does it. Now, you and I had a conversation a while back where you said, well, don't be so quick to judge with that, Mark, because I know you've experimented and stuff, and maybe I'm overthinking it. So I'm opening that up a little bit where I'm going to not be as strict on that criteria. But those are generally the 3 things I look for.
Yeah. And, you know, about the frequency, the promotional frequency, at one point it was, you know, for me, once every 3 to 4 weeks. And these days I can do them back to back, no problem. And, you know, one of the reasons, there's actually 2 reasons for that I found that to be acceptable. First reason is if somebody's into something, they're really into something. Like I was having this conversation with someone, I just don't remember who. I was just at the Annexon Gall's Expert Summit. And, you know, we were discussing about, you know, pretty much the same thing. And I told them, look, you can't bore people with things they're interested in. So if somebody's interested in YouTube ads and they're really trying to understand YouTube ads, and I can speak from experience as somebody who actually went through a phase of several years of trying to figure it out. And finally, now we're at a place where we're putting about $100,000 a month into YouTube ads. So, you know, I would consider myself someone who figured it out. Although truth be told, it was more about the offer than it was about the ads, but that's like neither here nor there. Like I was consuming everything I could find about YouTube ads. Like if there was a coach consultant, a book author, YouTuber, media buyer. If there was anyone who mentioned YouTube ads, I would listen because it was so important for me to figure it out. Or, I love espresso. Like I'm a big espresso connoisseur. Like here's right now, I'm drinking this Italian
there we go.
blend called Forza, which is great. It's actually from the Happy Goat Coffee Company, believe it or not, based in Ottawa, Canada. The best damn coffee, best damn espresso I've ever had. So, and it was not a paid endorsement, by the way. I actually did not make a commission just now, believe it or not. So, like, you can't bore me with coffee and espresso. I'll try anything. If one time I was overhearing I was listening to a podcast episode, somebody mentioned the Blue Jamaican Volcano espresso or something. Immediately, I literally just go and Google that, and I want to get a package. Now, it turned out not to be very good, but if you're passionate about something, you want more of it all the time. Like my dad, he loves soccer, so he watches everything. Like he watches every league, every game, even if it's a Russian league that kind of sucks, almost playing in slow motion sometimes, he'll go for it. And that's one. The second thing is, I've been kind of looking into my list, and this is specific to my list. Might be different for your list, but I've been looking to my list, and I've been checking out. I'm tagging people who open my emails, so I know, and exactly which promotion they open as well. So if you opened an email like this week, and then the previous time you opened it was 6 months ago, I'll know. And I looked into it, and turns out it's different people opening emails on different weeks, which means different interests attract different people on my list. So even if you've mailed something for a week or two, it doesn't mean that the next week is going to be the same people opening your emails, even if the open rate remains the same. Like it may average out a 20% open rate, but it's going to be a different 20%.
Yeah, it's a good point. I have a twin brother who's into guitars, and he is enrolled in so many guitar lessons. He's always buying new guitars, and that's his hobby outside of business. And so that's a perfect point. The other fun fact, which I learned a few years ago, is which you would know being connoisseur, it's espresso and not espresso. There's a Twitter account that will tweet people who say espresso. Have you seen
really?
that one?
It's the most annoying thing in the world for me, man. If somebody says espresso, oh man. What's it called? I want to go.
I forget the name, but however the Twitter bot is set up, if somebody says espresso, it automatically tweets them to let them know about that error. It takes it quite seriously. So if you check out, I don't know, espresso bot Twitter, you Google or something, you should be able to see it in there. But because I was one of the violators years ago, not being a coffee drinker, espresso, I don't like tea or anything. I would think, oh, espresso, right?
Dude, no, it's like it hurts my ears.
Yeah,
it's so bad. It's so bad. Yeah, it's truly espresso, not espresso. I don't know why people say espresso. Maybe because they think it's fast, like it's an express cup of coffee or something. I don't know.
They're thinking, because maybe it's the ES we're not used to hearing, espresso like that versus express. I don't know. It's one of those weird things in life, like the Berenstain Bears and stuff like that people mispronounce. I don't know.
Yeah, we should. we should just shame them. There's a place in hell for people who say espresso. Just saying. All right. Well, let's dive back into the model. Now, how did it come to be? Did you start out and you immediately decided that's going to be my packages? Like, how did you even come up with the idea of selling this as a service rather than running joint venture mailings for people?
No, I got online with coaching in 2014, and for the first 4 years, I did joint ventures traditionally. So I would promote someone, they're selling a program, whatever price, and I get 25% of the sale, or 50%, or 40%, whatever. What I was finding with the promotions I do, the campaigns, I'm allergic to swipe copy. I mean, I'll pull ideas from swipe copy, but I'm not the type to just copy and paste if a partner gives me swipe copy, because I'd like to have it in my own language or whatever. So I do put a lot of work into the content creation and stuff for the campaigns. I found that I was putting so much work in there. That was part of the reason I set up this way, so that I was, make sure I'm getting paid and compensated fairly. The other reason I did it was more bandwidth issue. I'm sure you get this all the time, Igor. You get people reaching out to you that you don't know. hey, Igor, I'd love to connect with you on Zoom for a virtual coffee or virtual espresso. And, but really it could be a disguised sales pitch to get you to be an affiliate to promote whatever they're selling. And I was getting stuck on all these calls, and I kind of threw my arms up. And when I set it up this way in late 2018, set up the page, which is jvwithmarc.com, Marc with a C. And this way I could send people to that page. I would say to them, hey, just let you know, I do my joint ventures differently than most. You can get the details at this page. And if you're still interested in chatting, there's a link to book a call with me there. And it chased away anyone that was wanting to pay just strictly commission or whatever. So I really saved myself, I don't know, I would say at least 100 calls a year, maybe 200 or more, because I send so many people to that page, but a lot of people aren't willing to pay. They want to do the commission thing, which is totally cool. That's their business, their choice. But that was the other reason why. It was more for time management and to protect myself and my schedule, because I was just getting swamped with all these calls.
Okay. So just like many things, I guess it gets created out of a necessity. Wow. It's, how many inventions have you heard of that were created as a result of a necessity or a freak accident? But in this case, it's a strategic decision to protect your sanity and your time and your asset.
Well, can I tell you a really quick story when I first launched it, which showed, and I'm sure you deal with this all the time, Igor, a lot of people who were reaching out to me prior to this were kind of full of crap. They were going on like whatever they had to sell was going to sell, we were going to sell a ton of it. I was going to make these huge, commissions or affiliates from it. And, a lot of times that's not the case. So the very day that I got that page set up and I switched my model, a mutual connection connected me with someone. She had a $5,000 offer for coaches to help them sell from the stage if they did speaking stuff. And so I didn't get a chance to send her to this page. She didn't know that I did it as a flat fee because it was literally the day I brought it in. So she was giving me the pitch and she's laying it on thick as we're doing the chat. And she said, Marc, I guarantee we do this, we're going to sell 20, no problem. So that's $100,000, right? In total revenue. And she said, you're going to get 50% of it. So that's $50,000 for you or whatever. And she was just really like, you could tell, I got that vibe. My spidey senses were tingling that she was full of it. So I said to her, well, I have some really good news for you. I said, you're not going to have to pay me $50,000 commission. You're only going to have to pay me now. At the time I started at $2,000 because this was brand new. Now it's $6,000 I charge for the week. I said, you're only going to have to pay me $2,000 instead of $50,000. And I gave her the link, which she opened up while we're on the call. Her demeanor went icy cold, like it just frigid. I needed a parka on there. And she said, I don't pay for promotions. And I kind of humored and I said, well, I'm curious, why not? I said, because you guarantee you're sure we're going to sell $100,000 worth. Wouldn't you rather pay $2,000 instead of $50,000? You're saving $48,000. And it was a very quick call. It ended shortly after. What I gleaned from that was that she was full of it. We weren't going to sell 20 spots or a thing. She had, with no skin in the game, it doesn't hurt for me to throw it out to my community or whatever. She's not losing anything with it. But I proved right there that she wasn't terribly confident in what she was selling, because if not, she would have jumped at paying just $2,000 versus $50,000. So
and some people just can't take rejection. They want to make, they want to ask, right? But they just can't take rejection and they take it personally. I mean, my experience, I had a very similar experience. I was speaking to someone who you might know because that person is a coach as well. That person might have been or might not have been on your podcast. And, they put together a JV giveaway event with, I call it a JV giveaway event, but they call it something else. But essentially is like you get featured amongst 100 other people giving away something. So to me, it's a JV giveaway. And, she actually said that, whoever wants to participate has to pay.
Right.
Now, personally, I didn't feel that it was worth it for me because of me being kind of mixed with a bunch of other people there. I don't feel like putting money into it would have necessarily made me, get me the exposure that I wanted. So I said politely no. But, I still stayed on the call. We still had some chat, good chat. I actually suggested to her a tweak for her thank you page that will increase her bottom line for this, as well as a trick, like a bit of not a black hat, but, like thinking outside the box, but still legal trick that would help her actually build a much larger list and make a lot more money from the whole thing. And kind of we parted ways, friends. Now, will it turn into something in the future? Might might not, but that's really the JV game. You take that risk when you decide to invest in pursuing a joint venture. It might work, might not work. Before we got on the call, I spoke to a guy from a real estate space. A very nice guy, runs a service, a mastermind, which wasn't a great fit for me, but still ended up making an introduction for me that might turn into something. And now if he needs something, he'll reach out to me. So, it's you don't have to take things personally.
Yeah.
I guess my point is, but it's hard. It can be hard because, she might have got rejected in the past and it really hurt. So she just ended up transferring those emotions over to you. But I think you did right to stand your ground, and it was nice little flipping that table on her and be like, well, if you're so confident, sure, why not? And that's really cool. I mean, I still think as a list owner, your number one priority should be your own sanity, your own income, your own freedom, and get everyone else to play by your rules rather than bending over to theirs. So I think that's great. And I guess another question I have is, so right now, the going rate as of us doing this. So if you're listening to this and the going rate went up, don't come knocking on my door, please. But right now, the going rate is $6K for 7 days and $3K for 3 days. I'm curious, so original price was $2K. How did you price it? Like, was there a rule book that you follow, or did you say, well, that's how I feel it should be priced? Like, how did you structure the pricing?
Well, I know it's not terribly scientific, but I increased a lot of it's supply and demand. When it was at 2000, I started to get swamped with people who wanted all these spots. And I'm like, man, I'm going to be doing JVs every single week or whatever. I need to still promote my stuff. So I increased it to kind of, help with that where the demand was there. And then every 6 months to a year, I would increase again. So it went from 2,000 to 3,000, 3,000 to 4,000, 4 to 5, and then 5 to 6. And it is a little bit of testing it, dipping your toe in and seeing, now I wouldn't go out there and say, yeah, I'm charging $20,000 right now. I want the partner to get the value from it and stuff too. But it's more just same thing with coaching fees, forcing, which I recommend coaches do, force themselves every 6 months to a year. They're improved as a coach. They're better off than they were a year ago. The client should be getting more value. So push your fees there. You deserve to keep, especially now with inflation, right? We're in Canada, the US getting hit with inflation too. So you got to do that. But just push yourself. And every time I've increased my fees, whether it be coaching, this package that we talk about here, whatever, there's a little bit of hesitation because I'm filling my spots now. I might shoot myself in the foot, but then I never regret it. It's so it's a bit of a balancing act. You want to be aggressive with the charging and stuff, but you don't want to be overly aggressive and push too far either. So.
Yeah, and that's great because most people, they'll just never raise their prices because they'll just be afraid. And again, you're doing so many things right. It's just, it's so easy for me to highlight them, just not being afraid to raise your prices. And probably the price will go up in the future, when you continue to get more requests because supply and demand, like you said, kind of like what happened during COVID, right? Housing market went up all of a sudden, supply and demand. I actually just built a deck as well. And, I got a price, a quote from this guy who wanted to build me the deck a couple of years back. And the quote was about $40,000. And, he came back to me a couple of years later and he's like, hey, you're still looking for a deck for someone to build you? I was like, yeah, sure. And he quoted me half that. Right. So supply and demand, apparently demand went down because housing market got deflated a bit. And all of a sudden people don't refinance their home to do renovations. The price of, wood or shipping or something went down. All of a sudden it's different. So supply and demand, man, for sure. And I'm really, really happy for you for having such demand too. If you continue to have demand, and I know that just recently there's a big marketer, a best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author, who's a mutual friend of ours, who ran a promo with you. I'm not going to reveal their name, but I'm seriously impressed because if they keep coming back and they keep paying your prices, that means your list and your audience convert, and that's awesome because. There's plenty of solo-ed sellers, and I know you don't consider yourself to be a solo-ed seller, but anyone who sells advertising to the list, in my book, I would kind of classify them as such. So there's many solo-ed sellers out there that give us a bad name, They sell crappy traffic, bots, injections. They go through great length to sell all kinds of crap. So, when you found something of quality when the price tag kind of matches, you get what you pay for kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I always tell people when sometimes they'll be, well, can you guarantee how much I'm going to make from it? And I would love to say, yeah, you're going to make X amount. I say there's only guaranteed life, death, and taxes. And COVID stuff, it seems like a never ending. But what I do say is I guarantee that I will put my most, as much as I can into this, I'm not going to half-ass it. I'm going to be, promoting the heck out of it, which, knock on wood, works really well. Now, there has been the odd campaigns where for whatever reason, the results aren't what we're hoping, or whatever. It's hard to control that. Sometimes I'll do a little something extra for them. They got something going on down the road. Luckily, it hasn't been many times, but just because I want to keep my partners happy, right? It's long term. I view it more the marathon instead of a sprint. So I'm not looking for it to be a one and done, and that's the only one we do. Ideally, with partners, we're doing multiple ones over the years with it. So that's all I can do is I can, put the most into it with my people, and then hopefully the partner has a good system in place to convert the traffic and everything that's being sent over.
Yeah. And I'm curious, did you ever have a campaign where you regretted not GVing, where you were like, where you made 6K, but the campaign ended up producing 60 and you're like, damn it.
Well, I had one partner, and I don't think he minds me telling it, Sean Kemp, not the basketball player Sean Kemp. He's a young guy who's in the online space, and he made close to 30 on the campaign. And we did a few. I think it was one we did on December 23rd, which I wasn't sure about because it was so close to Christmas. But it ended up working out well because the people that went on to his webinar, the number of registrations and people attending were a little lower than usual. But the sales were a lot higher because if someone's going on a webinar on December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas, they're probably pretty serious, right? So in that case, if I'd done a 50-50 split or whatever, yeah, I could have made double or almost triple what we did. But hey, he's happy, he's tickled pink, gave me a great testimonial, and we'll do more down the road as well. So yeah, I mean, that at the end of the day, there's going to be some that it's going to hurt me with. There's going to be some that's going to help me with. And I mean, like you mentioned, I'm all for having boundaries, structure your business the way that you want to structure it. It's your business, your rules. And you have to be willing to tell people, sorry, I don't do it this way. And I find so many coaches and people in the online space are so eager or horny for money, they'll just bend over and take it, however, the money with it. That's not the way to go. You end up being frustrated, miserable, not regretful. And I like having it. Here's my package. If you're interested, cool. If not, that's also okay. And, good luck.
Yeah, you're totally right. I was just at this event. I was hanging out with my buddy Joe. He's got a real estate info business. And, we spoke about selling high ticket coaching. And he said, well, I've sold 50K coaching and I can do 100K coaching. But like, if I would just hate myself, he says, like there's some things you won't do, and you kind of have to set those boundaries. You have to know what these boundaries are. And I really respect that. And yeah, like you said, like for me personally, the reason I love selling solo ads is not only because of this possible fluctuation in results, but the predictability. Because I started selling solo ads, and shortly after I had a baby. So I was like a young father. I was forming my household, building my castle, right? And so for me, knowing that every day I'd make $1,000, give or take, based on how much volume I had at the time, like that really helped me. Because I don't know about you, but I'm extremely risk averse. I grew up poor, and I remember. I really remember what it's like, for real. I mean, there were times in our life when I actually had to take my piggy bank when I was a kid and back in Ukraine. I remember that day was minus 20 Celsius. So the kind of, I mean, you go outside with a cup of water, you kind of spill the water and it freezes in the air, before it hits the ground. Mm-hmm. So it was really, really bad. And that day, my parents approached me, and my mom and my dad, they said, look, we don't have any money and we need to go buy something to eat. So would you mind if we borrowed money from your piggy bank? To which I said, you know what? Sure. And I don't know why, but I felt really proud doing that, even at that age. But I had this, I loved it. I had this piggy bank, man. It looked like Scrooge McDuck. Remember that,
Yeah,
the
I
DuckTales,
do.
right? So I had the big Scrooge McDuck, and he had this, the thing where you slide the coin in the back of his head. Now, there was no way to open him up to take the money without breaking him. So we went to the kitchen. They handed me a hammer, put it on the table. I was like, bam, and I broke him, smashed his head in. And that day we counted the money. There were 67 grivnas, which was the Ukrainian, money. So that day we spent about half the money to get some bread, milk, a sausage and stuff like that. But it's something you don't forget, right? And so for me, no matter how many millions I've made, no matter how much money comes in every day, it just that never leaves. So that's why I really like Sunny Silhouettes.
Yeah, and I'm not equating growing up middle class in Canada to what you went through in Ukraine, but I built a big real estate business through my 20s, and everything went belly up when I was roughly 31 years old, 2009. And I'd gone from having, 100 agents and employees. I had a big house, 4-car garage bay, the Mercedes, I had a Lexus, all that stuff, the toys. When everything collapsed, I was visiting my father afterwards, and I was parked in his parking garage because he was in an apartment complex downtown. And when I left visiting him, I was getting ready to pull out of the garage, and it was going to be like $2 or whatever to pay to get out of there. And I was literally scooping up quarters, loonies being counted. I'm like, I hope to God I can find a loonie. Here's some quarters, dimes and stuff to pay the $2 to get out of the friggin' parking garage. And I'm thinking, man, I went from driving $100,000 Mercedes CLS 550 to scrounging for $2 to get out of a parking garage. So that's still with me now, even though I've been doing online coaching for 8.5, almost 9 years, and I don't think it will ever leave me. It's more, it gets inside you. You never forget that, right? Like a wound, it may heal over, but it's scarred. It's still there with it. So I get what you're saying with the Scrooge McDuck thing. It's it's not fun, but it sticks with you, and hey, it motivates you to stay on top now.
Yeah, it truly does. It's like when you burn your hands on milk, you blow on water, so to speak. There's an old Russian saying for that, and it's so interesting. I even once had a conversation with my buddy here. He's in Canada. He's big in the CPA marketing world, and he was actually telling me how he admires this because he didn't grow up like that, and he doesn't have it. And he was telling me that, he sees that I'm constantly doing something, like that I don't sit still and I keep going and I keep doing and I keep producing. And that for him, it's really difficult to continue to motivate himself past a certain number. And he says that, he asked me why. And I said, well, that's why, because I remember like it was yesterday. I remember what it's like to not have money, to worry about where money's coming from. I remember when we were still in Israel, and I was in my late teens. Every morning I would wake up and my mom would make me breakfast, some eggs and some, bread and butter. And I would be at the dinner table eating, and I would always be across from her putting on some makeup because she was getting ready for work. She worked at a factory. And she would always be angry. Like I thought she was angry, but now I understand she was worried. And every now and again, there'd be like budget cuts and stuff like that. And, so she was always concerned about, will I have a job tomorrow? And I really hated that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like I really hated the idea that you have to be worried about whether or not you'll have a job. Now, I can appreciate worrying about whether or not you'll make money tomorrow, whether you're going to find the next client or whatever. But at least you have control over whether or not you're going to find a client or whether or not you're going to run a promotion. But having a job, someone else can just come in and X you just because there's budget cuts, just because they don't like your face, just because there's COVID or whatever. That I didn't appreciate. And so I guess that's why I really wanted to build my own business. So, yeah. Now, really, this is just a fascinating model, man. Truly fascinating. Now, we do have to wrap up because we're out of time. But in case somebody actually wants to run one of these promotions with you, where should they go? Also, please tell us a little bit more about your podcast and how we can just in general find out more about you. How can we get into your Facebook group and just, be connected with you?
Sure. So as mentioned, the details on the JV package are at JV with Marc. That's Marc with a C, jvwithmarc.com. The podcast is naturalborncoaches.com. And then the Facebook group, The Coaching Jungle, is thecoachingjungle.com. If anyone from listening to this ends up booking a JV, mention Igor's name because I do pay for referrals. Some people say, oh, don't pay for referrals or whatever. For me, some of my best referral partners, now it's not enough to retire on, by the way, it's $500 US, but that's my thank you. If someone gives me a good JV partner, I'll pay $500 all day long. With it. So mention Igor's name. He can buy some, he'll put it towards your deck if you haven't built it already, or you got some jerseys.
Dude, it pays for an oil change in my Porsche, so I'm good, man.
Yeah, $500 isn't much, but it's a thank you for me. And it's funny because some of my best partners have sent me business. They don't care about the money. They're doing really well, but it keeps me top of mind with it. But they're also referring at the end of the day because they know I'm good at what I do and we get along well with it. But I thought I'd mention that as well. But it's a whole other conversation about referrals and paying for referrals. But jvwithmarc.com.
Awesome. Well, I didn't expect that, guys. Just so you know, I didn't invite Marc just because he promised me a referral commission that was not discussed. And let me put it this way. Let's go ahead and apply this $500 as a discount to whoever goes to JV with Marc, that's Marc with a C, jvwithmarc.com, and gets a package. So if you mention Igor, then you'll get a $500 discount. How's that? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's cool. And I did spring this on you. We didn't talk beforehand. So, but that's very generous. So anyone, coming through you, Igor, would get that discount applied.
Awesome. Yeah. And also, guys, if you do end up working with Marc, then contact me at my support desk at igor@listbuildinglifestyle.com. And I'll also send you a neat little bonus about Microsoft ads. So if you're looking to promote your business, you can actually use their platform to run some PPC ads that a lot of people are not using right now. So again, if you end up working with Marc, all you have to do is just once you start working with him, just email your receipt to igor@listbuildinglifestyle.com. And I'll give you a neat bonus. Promise it's going to be worth your while. So, Marc, thank you so much for sitting down with me. It's been fascinating. Thank you for opening up about your model. Now that we've done an episode, I'm sure there's other people going to be picking it up. So I apologize about that. But it's fascinating. I admire what you've done there. Naturally, of course, it's not your only income stream, but that alone can provide the peace of mind and the stability that a middle upper class Canadian needs. So it's been great. Thank you so much for sharing. And until we chat, have a good one. Thank you for listening to the List Building Lifestyle. Get access to the previous episodes, transcript of today's show, as well as other exclusive content at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. Also remember to claim your free copy of my best-selling book at www.igorsbook.com. It explains how I made millions with list building starting from scratch. Plus, I'll give you $3,000 worth of free bonuses, including my best landing page templates, email swipe files, and traffic blueprints. Go to www.igorsbook.com now to claim your free package.